Hey peeps, DJ MK here, and welcome to another live stream. A game will be coming over later. We'll be continuing with the Lady's Choice, and maybe as well as the Vainglory 5v5 video that I've been promising you the past few days. But today I decided to do a vlog, a live Q&A, live vlog. Thankfully, if you've not seen the movie yet, rest assured there will be no spoilers whatsoever. So I'm just going to be talk about like what I just took away from this movie. I've been tweeting a little bit last night and somewhat this morning, but I went to the opening fan event last night with a friend at 6 p.m. showing, and I had a really amazing time. But I mean, I know there's been like loads of articles like the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc. that have been talking about impacts. But I mean, it's one thing to go at it from a reporter's perspective, but another to go from a more personal perspective. So I feel like it's very important that I make this video to do this. The recording will be posted on Twitch as well, but it's going to be permanently on my YouTube channel. So, so for those who have been following me through both mediums, thank you very much for that. So, yeah, this is my perspective on what Black Panther means to me. So, both my parents are immigrants, from Cameroon to be more specific. And so I came over here, well, I was born over here, but anyway, in the U.S. I was born over here in the U.S. And one of my greatest escapes I love to go to was through video games and television and books. And that was my greatest expression when it came to being myself, was through the literary medium. I wrote stories, I wrote poems, you name it, I've probably done it. And I've even done martial arts. Up to 13 years I've done that. And the hardest part, especially being a nerd in America, or at least more so in 90s America, is that they kind of look upon you as being some sort of antisocial or uber detached from the real world kind of thing. And I lived kind of the opposite of that mentality. I always was very talkative. I always was very social. But then I think I kind of realized this in a subtle manner. Unlike most people that may talk about this, I never really had an upfront experience of, or at least like the more blatant experience of racism until I became more aware of the systemic problems that surrounded it. And I think I was already very aware on a subconscious level. If the characters were able to be customized, I always customized them closer to my color. I'd write stories where I often assumed that the default was me. And whenever I watched a movie, I'd often have to try really hard to see myself in it. And of course, as I grew up, the more I learned, the more I talked about it, it just became harder to go that way, even with my big imagination, as much as I have it. And with the loving, even though I have a loving heart, I love these people to pieces. I really like all the work these people have done and all these other things they've done, but I've always been wanting for something more. I've been wanting to see myself, if not as an actress, then as a character, at bare minimum. And especially something beyond the slavery narrative, because I don't have because my genetics don't have that history at all, and I couldn't associate myself with that history at all, because the most history I have in America is just being born here. But I'm aware that that's something you can't detach, even if you're just if you're just a transplant. You can't detach the negative energy from the way this place is created. So, and I think I also eventually got affected by all the negative messages that were popping up in the media, whether it was just getting disapproved for that one role in theater, or just not getting that rousing applause that most of the people were getting when it came to their work. And there was even at one point where Maho Kunoichi would have been dropped easily within the very first year. Even though I had an audience at that radio show, I actually almost dropped it because all the negativity of being a woman, being of African descent, being a combination of those two, being a geek and a nerd, it just became too much to carry, and I almost dropped it. But it took a community of like-minded people, and along with the reporter John Quinones, the one from ABC's What Will You Do, to tell me that my voice is needed, and so I can't give up that easily because I've gotten so many naysayers. So I continued on for its run for the entirety of my college time, and I'm right now trying to continue on that time via Mixler. I'm still setting up for that. Link is in the description of my YouTube channel, by the way, if you want to donate. I only need $20 to get it running. That's all. I'm not asking much. If I get 20, that's it. I'll be good for the next 3 months of running without trouble. But anyway, getting back to Black Panther a little bit. So fast forward to now. When I first saw Black Panther in Civil War, Chadwick Boseman really stood out to me in a way. It was a godsend, the timing he came in. He stood out in the way he performed in Civil War. And, I mean, to be honest, at first when I saw Civil War, I was thinking, like, when they did the Team Iron Man and Team Cap thing, I just rebelled and said, like, hey, Team Black Panther. But little did I know when I walked away from that movie, that's precisely the stance I took at the end. Is that even though Captain America and Iron Man have their own interesting argument, in the end, I sided with Black Panther all the way. He went through an arc of his own. He ended up in the middle of something that he had no idea what he was getting into, but as a royal and as a hero, he had a duty to protect the people he served. And that's precisely what he did. And bringing proper justice. Obviously, he started with a vendetta, but he knew in the end that was unproductive. So he took the higher road. Excuse me. And that's what impressed me the most. He changed not only as a leader, but as a person. And so this movie covers just after that moment when he establishes himself as a person and as a ruler, getting that throne and finding out what it means to be a leader, which is something that not many other superheroes can easily say. The closest I could really think of is probably Hagar from, I forgot the fighting game he's from, but Hagar from one of the fighting games. I forgot which one. It's not Street Fighter, I know that for sure. Hagar being a mayor of California, and Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon in particular is the biggest one that comes to mind. Sailor Moon, she was the princess of the moon. And then later on, she becomes the queen of the earth and the moon for the Silver Millennium. That's really the closest we get in terms of having leaders as superheroes. I mean, there's probably tons more that I'm not thinking of right now. It's 1 p.m. I'm getting up to that point. I'm hungry. But anyway, I mean, if you have any others you could list off, feel free to put it in the messages portion. My chat's open right now. If you remember any other leaders that, oh, hey, Grim Toadstool, it's nice, great to see you again. But yeah, so, but really, long story short, very few superheroes you could list off as having a literal leadership position and maintaining superpowers at the same time. And especially when it comes to the history that that this character has. I'm trying not to get into spoilers. It's very hard to. But the plots that they cover in this movie, it's very relevant to today's situation when it comes to identity and our own definition of strength, and also our definition of ourselves. So, when I saw all those actors and actresses up in this movie, giving it their all, doing the best performances possible, and all of the culture is represented in that movie, I was already proud of who I am before I watched this movie, but I walked away even more proud of who I am. Seeing Chadwick Boseman, Lupita Nyong'o, Danny Gurira, Daniel Kaluuya, Michael B. Jordan, and even Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis. They gave it their all in this movie. And so Forrest Whitaker and Angela Bassett, can't forget those people too. Just all those people. They gave it their all in this movie, and I feel happy and proud that I share the same culture as them, that I share that lineage. And I feel proud that I finally in such a way that I could share this feeling with. I have people that I could share it with. I have something that I can refer people to if anybody wants to get to know me or get to know who I am, or a superhero that I could look up to. Black Panther. This is it. This movie is it. And I feel happy this exists. And I'm thinking to myself, if this happened back when I was a teenager or back when I was a child, I would be having an entirely different conversation right now. I would be talking about the excitement of all these different superheroes that exist right now. We have Wonder Woman last year. This year we have Black Panther, and later on Captain Marvel. And obviously we have several others that desperately need the attention. That I'm sorry, I'm still in the excitement of the moment. But long story short, I'm grateful that I got this now. I'm grateful that I have this experience now. Like the LGBT community with Andrew Repon and Rick Riordan, and women with Wonder Woman, and now with Dora Milaje, and now with Black Panther, and the African diaspora, and the motherland. This means a lot, believe it or not. This means a lot to people. We've had a lot of black leads, but I mean, in terms of a movie like this, we've had nothing like this. And to all those producers who were willing to give this movie a chance at being made, thank you. To Ryan Coogler, who has been a fellow nerd one moment dreaming about it 10 years ago when Iron Man first came out, to making the same vision possible now for not only people of color, but for all of us. Thank you. To Chadwick Boseman, to Lupita Nyong'o, to Danai Gurira, to any of those people involved in the film, acting, producing, otherwise. Thank you. I'm eternally grateful. You've done so much for us as nerds, as geeks, whether you start off with Marvel or something else. I'm grateful. We're all grateful that this exists. You guys are superheroes in every respect. And I'll be eternally grateful for that. I mean, you brought my dreams to life again. I mean, I've had it for a long time. I mean, being an artist, an actor, a gamer, live streaming this right now. But watching the movie last night made me realize that those dreams were valid and real. And I'm eternally grateful for that. Thank you. But yeah, if you really want to be blown away with this movie, I recommend watching it in 3D or on IMAX. Even better if you can combine the two, because Wakanda is beautiful. And I think the entire theme of the movie is just when you think you know the entirety of something, boom, something else shows up and it shatters your expectations. That this person, this world, this universe is something bigger than any of us could ever imagine. And this movie clearly represents that. So I highly recommend you watch it in the biggest screen possible, or at least with the highest definition possible, because it is a beautiful film in every way. Beautiful in the culture, beautiful in the color, in more than one sense, and especially the setting. The setting is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I wish I could take a vacation in all the locales they filmed in that movie right now. Supposedly it was filmed in Australia and Georgia. So gosh, I'm emotional, but it's a good feeling. I feel really happy. So, yeah. For those expecting a gaming video, rest assured, later on today, I'm going to continue on with a few videos. Grim Toadstool, thank you so much for stopping by my Twitch. It has been a while since we've talked. But don't be a stranger. Please feel free to message me on chat. And to anybody who's been supporting me. Special thanks to Super Sejuk for streaming me every week. Thank you for Gamer Zach as well for inspiring me to do this. And CenterStrain01 on YouTube as well. Thank you for inspiring me to do this, and for many others who have been inspiring me to do this. Please also check out many other things like 28 Days of Black Cosplay. There's also a lot of other sites like Shadow and Act. There's one project from an actor from Welcome to Night Vale who did like this did this really interesting video series of POC in Hollywood films that tend to have central themes in them, but for some reason the POC numbers are pretty low and they barely occupy a minute of screen time. And a lot of the original sources that wrote these stories don't have an ethnic identity behind them. So practically anybody could have been cast as that. But obviously in the US, I don't know about anywhere else, but in the US it's very much a European default. So I mean, I'm not talking about any of the other films. they are just as brilliant. I will still recommend them without hesitation. But the fact that that this is fulfilling a need that many people have been wanting for so long, this shows how much representation matters. People coming out in their cultural garments and their cosplay. This is how much these characters matter to people. African, Asian, European, Pacific Islander, First Nations, anywhere you identify. It's very important. So, it also shows how many stories that desperately need to be told. So, to all those creatives out there, don't hesitate to tell them. No matter how imperfect your medium is right now, if you have the will to tell a story, please share it. The world is willing to hear your voice. There's billions of people in the world. Billions and billions of people in the world. So, you're going to have loads of people that are willing to listen. Thanks, Graham. I really appreciate it a lot. He said that that he really appreciates the different perspectives that happen. Yeah, of course. These stories are things that desperately need to be told. So, especially if you have an independent filmmaker, like, don't hesitate to look them up, because they have interesting stories. I took an independent film class a few years back, with a Sundance curator, Roya Rastegar, in case you're curious about who that is. And she introduced me to a lot of very different movies that some that I never would have been exposed to if it had not been for her showing the wide possibilities of the film industry, besides the big industries like in Hollywood, Bollywood, Nollywood, etc. So it's really critical to have, especially to have different voices out there, because without the different voices, we would not know that all these other industries exist. So go out and explore various communities, because the easiest way to get exposed to different community is through their media. So, a show that I've been watching right now, which is on Netflix, don't know about anywhere else, but here in the US we have it, is this Bollywood TV series called Razia Sultan. And it's about the first and only female emperor in India. And it's a really fascinating series. I highly recommend it. Some of the effects are not too refined, but the plot itself is very, very fascinating. And it is based on historical fact, so it makes it much cooler. But to get back on Black Panther a little bit, I'm grateful for all those superheroes existing, and also the actors willing to do it. I've seen Chadwick Boseman with one other film, that's on Netflix as well, and he carries almost the exact same accent in that movie, which is called A Message to the King. A message from the King. And it's about a man who travels to LA to find out what happened to his sister. And he carries a very similar accent in that movie to what he played in Black Panther. But the demeanor is slightly different. And it's a brilliant movie. I watched it a few months before Black Panther came out. It's honestly a perfect way to tide over your time, especially if you're in a country that's waiting weeks or months later. I know in Japan in particular, I found out from somebody on Twitter, in Japan they're not getting until March 1st. This is a good way to tide over your time. Watch A Message from the King. It's a really good one. Stars Chadwick Boseman, but then it also features Tom Felton, aka Draco Malfoy, and I believe Domhnall Gleeson's in it too, if I remember correctly. But a lot of people in the nerdverse will recognize a lot of the actors in there, so that's a good way to tide yourself over until the release comes to your country, at bare minimum. A Message from the King is what it's called. I'll put it in the chat box. Alright. Alright, film rec to tide yourself over. I know the UK already has it, but I know a few others don't, so I'm posting it to the chat. Yeah, Message from the King is a really amazing movie, and also just especially the action is pretty amazing in this film, especially considering that I think it's a lot lower budget than most Netflix movies tend to be. So that's one movie I recommend. In terms of other films, well, Lupita Nyong'o's debut and her Oscar win came from 12 Years a Slave. And she's not the main character in that movie. That one goes to Chiwetel Ejiofor, who plays Solomon Northup. But her performance in that movie is really heart-wrenching. That's a movie I recommend as well. Definitely recommend at least watching it with a friend who's really aware of the culture behind it, or the history, because especially if you're not used to that kind of visceral historical narrative, it's good to have company to have a shoulder to cry on. I certainly am glad I had my dad with me when I watched that movie, because it's not an easy one to sit through. But it's a good one to tide yourself over. A few others to recommend. Today is Gugu Mbatha-Raw Appreciation Day on Netflix as well. So, Cloverfield Paradox released Super Bowl Sunday on Netflix, which is highly unexpected considering they just released the trailer the same day. But it's been getting rave reviews on there. And it also has Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out. He's also in this movie, also in Black Panther. Speaking of Get Out is another movie I recommend to tide yourself over until this movie comes out in your country. And I know some theaters in the U.S., select theaters are playing free screenings of Get Out, so look up your theater, see if they play it. If not, then buying it on Amazon is not a bad idea either. And then what other recommendations I can give? Getting back to Gugu Mbatha-Raw for Gugu Appreciation Day. Another one that I enjoyed from Gugu Mbatha-Raw was Beyond the Lights, which is also Oscar nominated. Beyond the Lights is about a pop star who is basically trying to find her own identity between falling in love with an officer wanting to be a politician, and the overbearing notes of the industry, and even within her own circle, in this case her mother, trying to make her fit a certain image to be popular. And it sounds melodramatic, and in some ways it is, but it actually is a pretty interesting film to look at. But I think, hands down, the best one that I've seen her in was is Belle, which talks about Dido Elizabeth Ramsey, the first biracial heiress in the UK. And at the same time, it also covers how they eventually got the legislation to abolish slavery in the UK. And it's a beautiful love story. It's it is a true story, and it is based on this portrait that they found in the estate, where you see the figures in the paintings as equals, not one subservient to the other, as stereotypically as I often put it. And it's a beautiful film by Ama Asante. Ama Asante in general is a really brilliant filmmaker. I recommend her stuff. Ava DuVernay is another one. And for those who want to learn about a little bit more about other diverse histories, there is a Twitter called Medieval POC, which it's not limited to medieval times, believe it or not, but it covers POC from various time periods. So from obviously medieval times, and in some parts it even covers the Regency era, which is pretty cool. So those are all recommendations I can give to you until you tide yourself over. Until Black Panther releases in your country or something else. And another recommendation I would give, especially if you are interested in reading more comics, especially if you're interested in looking at Black Panther comics, I've heard that Christopher Priest's Black Panther series is really fascinating. I definitely need to check it out. I've only recently gotten into the Black Panther comics. I've been reading it for years, but I haven't really gotten into the Black Panther until recently. And the introduction for me to Black Panther was the release of Black Panther: A Nation Under Our Feet by Ta-Nehisi Coates and illustrated by Brian Stelfreeze. So it's 3 volumes total, and it takes place after the events of the first Civil War comic. Wakanda is in huge upheaval after the events of Civil War, and T'Challa even has come under doubt by his own countrymen, by Ladora Malaye, and various other people. And people have even been questioning whether or not he even wanted to be royal in the first place, considering that he loves being a superhero, and a lot of the efforts that he's been doing, it's more external rather than within the country, at least in their opinion. So this explores that upheaval. It's another one that I think it's a great follow-up, especially after watching the movie. It's a great follow-up. Another one which I don't have a copy of here is World of Wakanda, co-written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, but mainly written by Roxane Gay. That comic unfortunately got interrupted. It got canceled mid-run, but I bet Marvel is specking themselves upside the head now, considering now that people are going to the comic shops and looking for material like this to read. So I bet they're regretting their decision now, trying to cancel it mid-run. But maybe a lot of things they never really think about. They never really think about it unless it's in hindsight. BB on YouTube, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming. So a lot of these things that we talk that we celebrate now, we kind of don't think about it until we get to it in hindsight, which is kind of interesting. I mean, we've had this need for a good number of years. That we've been hungering for more diverse superheroes, hungering for more diverse characters in general, that we are not just our occupations, we are human beings that have feelings and expressions. We are not just the fandoms we're under, we are people with personal interests. And most importantly, that, like I said earlier, we have important stories that we all want to hear, and want to tell. So, for filmmakers like Ryan Coogler to be able to tell a story as culturally invested as this is very, very important, because it opens the door for more stories like this to be told, which right now they're in the process of writing more. Apparently Marvel and Ryan Coogler are in talks right now, possibly for a sequel, which, yes please. This beautiful film definitely deserves a sequel. So, this movie brought in many positive emotions for me and my friends, and I think especially for my family. This is one of the few where I can imagine bringing my parents to. My dad would obviously go with me for anything. He's very much a movie buff like myself. My mom, not so much. But this is one of the few where, even though it's not a historical story by any means, I think this is one that I think she'll be able to watch, that she'd enjoy. So, non-comic fans, I think we even get a kick out of this. I mean, I think that's what made most of the audience anyway from last night. But I think it also definitely encourages every single possibility of superheroes now that Black Panther has been breaking records, and Wonder Woman also has been breaking records since last year. So, goes to show that sometimes statistics can miss a valuable element, which is human intuition and human nature. It's easier to see ourselves and then believe that it's possible. So yes. That is what Black Panther means to me. It means reestablishing my confidence, my personal definition of an identity, my connection to my community, both in Africa, here in the US, people all around the world, and especially in the geek and nerd communities, because that's something I've been trying to cultivate back for a while, and I feel like I'm back there again. And most importantly, believing in my dreams once again, because that's something that felt very distant for a while, and now I feel like I got that back again. So, watch out! You're going to see a lot more content from me in the next few days or weeks. Besides videos, there might be other stuff too, so I'm excited to share that. So, this video was very unscripted, but I hope you enjoyed it. So, I'm open to take any questions right now, even if you don't ask them during the live session, which most of you probably aren't. Feel free to post it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to talk about it in my live stream or any future episode that I have. So here's all my social media that I have. The donation page is to get my radio show on Mixlr, DJMK on Mixlr, back up and running. All I need is $20, like I mentioned earlier, and I'll be good for 3 months, and I'll be able to run my show for 3 hours without interruption. So That's my goal right now. It only is $20. And the best thing about Ko-fi is that, unlike Patreon, it's not a subscription basis. So you can just donate what you can and be done. So there's that too. I'm also looking for a job as well. So rest assured, this will not be my primary source of income or dependence. It's just one way where I can make it more independent for just this one aspect. I'm still able to stream, but just not as elaborate as I want to go. I will be honest with you. So there's that. I also have Twitter. That's where I update the most frequently. So if you are curious about what I think or what I say or when the next live stream's coming up, Twitter is the very best method you can find me on. The next place you can find me pretty well is obviously on YouTube and Twitch. On YouTube, I go by DJ MK Off the Air because this is where I vlog often after all the shows are said and done. And Tandersaya on Twitch because I game. I play games. I'm in the middle of a visual novel series right now for an itch.io game called The Lady's Choice, which is basically like a Regency era visual novel story. So I'm gonna do part 3 of that later on, as soon as I get a little bit more presentable. And I also have a blog, bahukunobichi.blogspot.com. I'm gonna post this video in the blog as well, so as well as doing a more concise written summary as to why I feel Black Panther is important. So if you're curious about that, that's going to be there as well. And, of course, all these links are in the description of my YouTube. I'm still setting up my Twitch. I've only had Twitch for a few months. So I'm still trying to master all the features. And it's updated in a very steep rate. So there's a lot that I really need to update for the site. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and do so. I know there's like a few seconds delay on either side of the site, so I'm gonna wait a little bit. Gonna give myself until 1:45. So if anybody's posting any questions, please feel free to go ahead and do so. And you can ask me anything at this point, whether it's about Black Panther, or my radio show, what it's about, my Discord page, if you want a link to that. Ask me anything. Anything within reasonable limits, of course. Ask me anything right now, and I will answer the best I can. I'm on YouTube and Twitch right now, so please feel free to post them online. So I'm also, in the meantime, I will go ahead and type up the recommendations that I mentioned. I'm gonna post it on YouTube as well. I put it on the Twitch. I just realized. Okay, so alright, so all the film recs are up. I also review films for fun on my Mixler page. So if you're curious about what I reviewed, just go ahead and go to the Mixler site, mixler.com/DJMK on Mixler, and if you click on the show reel section, it'll show you pretty much every single film that I've done live. Some of it I've done with my friends. It's a lot of fun, especially right after I see a movie. I get to show my first impression as to what the movie looks like. And nowadays, I try to get into the practice of doing spoiler-free review and then a spoiler review. I tend to do the spoiler review first because I want to keep the memory fresh, unless it's for like situations like The Last Jedi, where it's a movie that I have to watch twice, and then I'll be able to get more concrete arguments out of it. Yeah, my first review should be coming up soon for Black Panther, both spoiler-free and spoilerific review. They're going to have the hashtags that will tell you which ones they are, so keep an eye out for that when you're listening. So, yeah, but this movie I really, really enjoyed. I felt really happy going out of it, and I'm excited to see more of T'Challa and the Dora Milaje and Wakanda come next movie. And, by the way, just to warn you before you watch it, there are 2 post-credit scenes. The reason why I say this is because I think a lot of us are used to the Phase 1 films that only had, like, 1 scene after the credits. Or maybe if they do like the post-credit scene, they often put it at the very end and it's off or in a very weird spot. This has 2. So, stick around for both of them. You'll catch some pretty interesting dialogue. I mean, these 2 were more in transition to Infinity War coming up later on in the year, but I think it's still very critical that those scenes existed because it establishes the barriers that Wakanda pretty much has to fight against, considering that they pretty much up until this point have worked in a very isolated fashion. And obviously, of course, they need to get to Infinity War. So those 2 scenes, they pretty much show that the odds that Wakanda's fighting against and Infinity War. So yeah, 2 scenes. Okay, Grim Toadstool from Twitch says, got a question on the comic movies. Which of the MCU movies do you like most? Which one was the strongest? And which did you like least? And which one's the weakest? Whew, okay. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to look through, because I've seen pretty much every single one. At least I believe so. That is a good question, Grim. Thank you so much for that. Marvel Cinematic Universe. And yeah, I think I'll pull in the Fox movies as well because they are Marvel, even though they might not be considered technically Cinematic Universe. So let me get the chronological order of these things. Okay, so here's all of them. All right. So right now we're at Phase 3. So which of the MCU movies did I like the most? Which one was the strongest? So, the ones that I liked the most, I enjoyed Captain America: The First Avenger. I also liked Marvel's The Avengers. Best one, I think, in my opinion, is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It has the right balance of intrigue and action, and well-executed timing, which I was really impressed by. I also enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming, and impression-wise, I feel like I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther. because I feel like those movies really were able to express their own culture, but in a futurist sense, even though it's technically happening in present day. But I love how they're unashamed of being themselves. And they still respect the comic roots, and they still enjoy themselves as directing material. So, which ones are like least? I know people are gonna find this strange, but I actually like Captain America: Civil War the least. I feel like the build up to the confrontation was wholly unorganic. It felt like it was just fighting for the sake of fighting, even though that's what people kind of wanted. It just felt very unsavory for me. There was no logic behind it. Sometimes fighting has no logic behind it, but it's a movie. There should be some rationale behind it, and there wasn't with Civil War. And it fell into many uncomfortable tropes. I'm not going to list them all here, but it fell into too many unsettling tropes that when my friends and I were trying to watch it again, it was very, very hard to sit through. We ended up having to pause in between sections of the movie to kind of talk about the logic behind a certain scene, what went wrong, and how the scene could have gone differently to get to that build-up they were looking for. What made more sense. So, yeah, but then again, these are guys that look at the same scripts for months on end, so they're not gonna have that fresh perspective like a newcomer like ourselves would have, or the audience would have. But still, that's something they really should have considered when they wrote that, and especially with this movie. I mean, Civil War, the action was excellent, the graphics excellent. The one saving grace with Civil War was Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. That was the one thing that pretty much was the saving grace of this movie. Otherwise, honestly, the one fix they could have easily made is that they made Civil War an Avengers film. If they made Civil War an Avengers film, or even better, if they waited until the Fox buyout was complete to make Civil War, I think it would have been 10 times better of a movie. But obviously they didn't have that luxury, so they weren't going to do that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it was fun, but I think it was probably the weakest one in the series. It's the least memorable of the films. Same with Thor and Thor: The Dark World. It was pretty weak on the list. And again, Thor in general has had a really hard time until we finally got Ragnarok. So, I mean, Thor itself, it was trying to be more of a Shakespearean drama, which I wholly credit it for. But I think Black Panther kind of came off better as Shakespearean while still being grounded in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Thor, I think, would hit better on a second view through, on a second watching. Now that we have two phases to walk through. But yeah, I think the best ones I really enjoyed were the Avengers and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So those two I highly recommend, and obviously Ragnarok and Black Panther, I enjoyed those as well. So yeah, those are my recommendations. And then Doctor Strange, I kind of put it in the middle. Like, there's some things that I really enjoyed about it, but then there were other things, I think because of my personal knowledge of how the production went down, it made me feel really iffy, and especially the character swaps, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it has like one of the greatest crossovers since like the Hercules and Xena universes back in the 1990s. they had every chance they could to cross over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in there, because they're all under the same label. They could have put in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They could have put in some Agent Carter, but then especially with the Netflix series, they could have put in some of the actors from those movies too. And then they even, just Doctor Strange in general was just really iffy for me, because of the way the production went down. There was the fact that they switched to Celtic mythology midway through, even though, if you look closely, it's very much Tibetan. And the fact that they were considering Michelle Yeoh for the Ancient One, ever since I found, and then I watched the movie, and all I could think about was Michelle Yeoh being the Ancient One, and I bet I would have thought that even before I found that was gonna be a thing, before they fell through on that promise. And then just in general, it just felt really strange. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, though, made a really good Doctor Strange. And then the nurse character, played by Rachel McAdams, was played by Rosario Dawson in the Netflix series. And she is the same character from Luke Cage. Look it up. They're the same character. I know Rosario Dawson is very busy, so I'm not surprised that they had to switch to another actress for that. But I mean, they could at least maybe waited at least a few weeks, or maybe not do such a dramatic swap, because that's a lot of things we're gonna have to keep in mind. But then again, we have the Quicksilver paradox with the X-Men universe and the things that went down in Age of Ultron, so it's a lot to keep straight. So in terms of Fox's Fox Cinematic Universe, Deadpool. I enjoyed Deadpool so much. I also enjoyed the Hellboy series, and obviously the X-Men series, both the Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen original, and the James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender series. You actually agree with that. You haven't seen the movies, but Captain America 1 and 2, as well as Iron Man 3, compete for top spot for you. And Civil War, Ant-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 compete for the worst. The Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I could totally see that. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is probably it's really the least memorable of the series. I mean, it was good in terms of character dynamic. I really feel as if it's been it feels like this team really has become a family. But in terms of actual plot and stuff, there was so much I could have explored with that movie, and they just failed at every turn. So I agree. Guardians 2 was really weak for me. Ant-Man, I think it's another one of those middle spot movies for me. Watching it in 3D and in a big screen, it was an amazing visual experience. But I follow it under the same class as Civil War as well. A number of rewrites needed to be done, and in fact, it kind of felt as if, slight spoiler, I mean, not exactly a spoiler, but it's just me, or does it seem like the original Ant-Man was actually supposed to be Hope Van Dyne? I know they've actually been trying to put her in to the movie since the Avengers, the very, very first film. They've been trying to put Wasp in since the very first movie, and they always cut her out. And then I thought we were going to get the Wasp with this Ant-Man movie, even though it's obviously going to cover Scott Lang's story as Ant-Man, but no, they put it as a post-credits scene. And now we're getting Ant-Man and the Wasp taking place after Civil War, which is an interesting place to put her in, I will admit. But then on the other hand, though, I feel like they could have made the Ant-Man Wasp team up with the Civil War film. So they put in opportunities to put in the Wasp in there a lot earlier, and they failed at that. So, yeah, Ant-Man's one of those in-the-middle movies for me. But the one amazing thing about the movie is the fact that they managed to make small stuff look amazing. Especially if you watch it in 3D. It looks really cool. So, that's one bright side with Ant-Man, is that they made the macroverse as impressive as the huge verse. So, there's that. There's that. I don't even know what that says. I don't even want to know. But anyway, yeah, I haven't seen every single one. The only one at this point that I have not seen, I've seen pretty much every single one. The only one I have not seen is Iron Man 3. I need to take some time and see that. Though I've kind of gotten spoiled. I've kind of gotten spoiled of it because of the events that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm still willing to check it out at bare minimum just to get the canon all straightened out. So I've seen Iron Man, I've seen Iron Man 2, I've seen Incredible Hulk. Kind of interesting that they didn't get Graham Northam to come back and revive his role as Banner, but on the other hand, I can't see anybody else but Mark Ruffalo playing him now. Ever since he came in with the Avengers, so I'm not surprised. Thor I've seen, first Captain America: The First Avenger, Avengers. Iron Man 3 is the only one I haven't seen. Thor: Dark World I've seen. I've seen all of Phase 2 except Iron Man 3, and I've seen every single one of Phase 3 so far. So, next is Infinity War on May 4th. Then Ant-Man and the Wasp on July 6th. Captain Marvel on March 8th, 2019. Don't know why we have to wait that long. And then the final Avengers film. So I'm thinking it's either an Infinity War Part 2, like I've seen in rumors, or it could be titled something else. So right now it's in post-production according to Wikipedia. So we'll see how that goes. But hands down for sure, it's going to introduce a new Avengers team. And then Phase 4, or what they call post-Phase 3, should be kicking in pretty soon. With the untitled Spider-Man Homecoming sequel in 2019, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in 2020. Both are in development. And then in terms of series, which I am very, very behind, but there's so many of them, it's hard to keep up with everything. There's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is on its 5th season right now, which is ending on May 18th. Then there's Agent Carter, which got canceled, but apparently episode might continue it on Netflix or some other medium. Marvel's Inhumans didn't last that long, which I'm not surprised. It was really hard to get into. I won't lie. Marvel's Daredevil, which is coming out this year, Season 3. Season 1 is brilliant. Season 2, I'm still watching that right now, so I can't give my impression yet. Jessica Jones, which I've seen a few episodes of season 1. I like it. Luke Cage, which season 2 is coming out 2018. I love Luke Cage. I really enjoyed it. Iron Fist, again, really tricky one to sit through. I think it was probably the weakest series Netflix came out with. Season 2 is coming out sometime, doesn't say when. They're filming it right now. Defenders, which came out last year, still need to watch that one. That and The Punisher, with season 2 coming out pretty soon. Then there's the Hulu series Marvel's Runaways, which came out 2017, and it just ended. And they're developing season 2 right now. Freeform's Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, which is coming out in June. Marvel's New Warriors, which is the animated series with Miss Marvel, with Kamala Khan, and the other recent 6 young adult heroes, coming out in 2018. Marvel's Most Wanted, and Marvel's Damage Control. So, there's a lot. There is a lot. And, of course, there's all the comics, short films, etc., etc. So... But yeah, there's quite a bit out there, believe it or not. So, in terms of, like, other content, a little fun fact, and I think Age of Empires peeps will enjoy this, is that there was a song on the Black Panther soundtrack that is called Wololo. Yeah, there's a song called Wololo. It's an actual word. It's raining right now. Oh well. And again, today is the premiere, so I'm not surprised that it's raining today, because Wakanda in some ways is coming to us. It's very warm here, even though it is February and it's cold in some areas. But yeah, there is a song in the Black Panther album called Wololo. I love that. I love that that exists. Woo! Yeah, it's really coming down. So, let me pull up the soundtrack for a little bit. Let me see what else. So, so the songs are also by, like, the score was mainly done, by Kendrick Lamar. But also it has, Za, Schoolboy Q, J-Rock, and, Anthony Top Dog Tiffith. As well as Future, 2 Chainz, Travis Scott, and Vince Staples. Yeah, let me see if I can find the album. But yeah, but yeah, Kendrick Lamar did, like, the songs inspired for the movie. I know there's a movie soundtrack as well somewhere. I just can't find it. But there is a song called Wololo. There's a song called Wololo in Black Panther. I'm gonna have to mention that to Gamer Zach the next time I jump on his live stream, because I think he'll appreciate it. And on his Twitter too. I'm gonna have to mention that. But oh my gosh, the rain is really picking up. I mean, but yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here because I need to get food. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a completely different thing than what I usually do, and then the few times I do vlogs, it tends to be pre-recorded. But I decided to do something a bit more live and organic and unscripted. So I hope you enjoy that. Thank you so much For the questions, thanks, Grim, for joining me. There's also Bobby Hill and BB. Thank you so much for joining me on this stream. Again, if you want to support me and check out my other socials, here is my Ko-fi page. In my YouTube video, the link is in the description. But for Twitch servers, I will copy and paste that. I also have a Discord server. I also have a Discord server as well, which I update what's going on my site. You can also chat with people about your fandoms, whether it's gaming, TV shows, movies, comics, or otherwise. And I was at YouTube, I got Twitch for those who are joining me here. I also have an audio live stream show, mixler.com/DJMK on Mixler. And you can check out the show reel for all my previous episodes, and a blog, mahokunobichi.blogspot.com. The show, I just realized, I just finally did the calculation. The show has just gone through its 4th anniversary, so it's 4 years of broadcasting I've been doing as of this month. It's the 4th birthday of my streaming endeavor. So I've been streaming officially for 4 years, which is astounding to me. Audio streams has been 4 years. Video game streams, I think it's getting up to maybe my 2nd year, I think. So, yeah. Big anniversary this year. And this is my 25th and a half birthday a few weeks ago. So, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on the stream. And to all the producers, again, thank you so much for making us all proud. And we're excited to see what more you're going to offer. So, until next time, everybody. Peace out. Look forward to my videos on Vainglory and possibly the final part of the visual novel, A Lady's Choice. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for your questions. Alright. Oh, the link's expired. I'm gonna... Let me post another one, Grim. I thought it was limitless. Yeah, I'm gonna post a new Discord link in YouTube as well. So hang in there. But yeah, thank you so much for streaming. Sorry for those wishing to stream, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.